Good evening, welcome to Joshua Powers' Fantasy League Stories, Episode 1, featuring Chris Benson.
Good evening.
Now, before we get into the nitty gritty of yourself, Chris, let's start with discussing the league and all involved within it. And we'll start in the draft order, seeing as you were first pick. So next would be James Lee, also known as Jim.
It's probably the one I've had the most controversial trades with. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah. Some say that I've had my pants pulled down, but there's a long way to go yet. There is a really long way to go, and I'm sure time will really tell on whether or not there were such poor decisions. I mean, Sergio Aguero being one of them, he's now going to be banned for 7 games in total already this season. Was he really worth it?
That's a debatable question, because obviously Jim sits fourth now. He's had 5 wins in a row, but obviously he lost to Adam this weekend.
It's not been beneficial for me, has it? It's been a combination of a lot of sides, really. I've been more than charitable, I'd say.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, how do you see Jim's season going anyway? Do you see him finishing top 4?
It was tailing off towards the same as last year, wasn't it? He was heading towards rock bottom, and then a couple of individuals, namely Comrade, thought it'd be funny to get a hashtag Team Jim on the go, and it sort of transformed his season, really.
Yeah, I mean, what are your impressions on Jim's egotistical behaviour as of late?
I think he's a disgrace. I think he's a damn right disgrace, and he rightly had his bubble burst this weekend.
Do you see him getting more wins on the road, or
I genuinely, especially with Aguero being out now, I really see the bubbles burst, and he's on his way back down to earth with a hard fall.
Okay, let's move on to then Massey, obviously commonly referred to as Lukaku and Luck. I mean, he's currently 9th in the table, 1 place below yourself. I mean, do you see him involved in a wooden spoon battle?
I mean, considering he's been living out of a car, to be 9th is brilliant as it is. And he's done really well. Anyone else would be rock bottom.
I mean, do you think him living out of cars affected himself and the squad?
I think it's definitely affected squad morale to see the manager in such squalid conditions. But he's holding it together just about.
Just about. And then obviously next we have Adam, who's recently stepped down from his duties within the league.
Yeah, some would say step down, others would say push. It's open for debate. It really is. I mean, what's your opinions on it, Josh?
Well, the show's not about me, Chris. It's all about you.
It's quite interesting. Without being too controversial, I'd say there's definitely more to meet the eye in the story. He definitely wasn't. He didn't step down. He was more pushed.
Okay, and obviously he's second in the league at the moment, and his current odds on favour to win the league. I mean, do you see him being the eventual winner?
It's far too generous from the bookies. It really is. I mean, what the bookies are seeing there, I have no idea. He's a solid 35 point a week man, and he's just never going to push the boundaries. He's done it once this season. He's never going to go to the end.
All right, now Ben. I mean, rumours are this is Preston, Ben. That rumours are flown around that you just like him.
I don't think I've ever used the C word as many times in my life to describe the lad. I mean, there's nothing else that sums him up at the moment, and it really upsets me because time hop came up yesterday. We had a wonderful afternoon in Burnley this time last year. Fantastic. Burnley away won 2-0. I drove, we had a few pints, and it really hurts me that we're not on speaking terms at the moment.
Can you see that changing then? Can you see yourself becoming friends maybe on the Christmas Day?
I'm certainly willing to offer out an olive branch to members in this league, and especially with the time of year, Christmas is coming up, we've got our Christmas do, and I don't like conflict, but I'm not willing to put up with certain behaviour.
Right, then moving on to another controversial member of the league. It's Anthony, the supposed commissioner of the league, who does nothing in the eyes of everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
is that? I thought you weren't offering your opinion during this.
Well, I'm just reading now everyone else's opinion, Chris.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry, that's flipping the interview on its head. It's very unprofessional. But Anthony, where do we start? He's never around when the shit hits a fan. That's what he never is. Nowhere to be found, and that says a lot about his sort of whole attitude towards proceedings.
Do you think something has to change then next season if the league is to continue?
I genuinely think we need a vote. He's done a lot for the league, especially at the start. He got everything up and running, but now he seems to have lost interest. He's obviously got other interests in his life, and unfortunately, the fantasy football isn't top of his priorities anymore.
It's understandable, Chris. And obviously, the next in the order is myself. I mean, you could speak freely,
Yeah,
Chris.
and admittedly, Josh, you've stepped up to the plate. I was very impressed with the simplified graphics at the weekend. The league table was slightly complicated, but the more detail, the better. Adam did a fantastic job. But you sort of took over the mantle very well.
Thank you, Chris. And obviously, next is the silent assassin, Gaz. I mean, I don't think anyone has any dislike or distaste for the man, as he never says or does anything. So
Can't dislike a man who's not there.
all I can say is he goes to Aldi a lot with his missus. That's
He
all I
goes
can
to
say.
Aldi, and I'd like to offer some sort of insight. I already know as one step ahead due to Rachel messaging Meg that I know that Gaz won't be present on the Christmas do. That's breaking news.
Can we ask why he won't be present?
He's actually got some sort of work thing that Meg's going with him to, and he's not ruling himself out. So I'd like to break the news live that he will not be at the Christmas do.
Well, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Then obviously moving on to the last two members of the league is the two new boys, Conrad and Ben. I mean, what are your overall impressions of the two so far?
Well, I think they've been a great addition to the league. I'm sure everybody will agree. They're an absolutely fantastic addition. Conrad pretends that he's got some sort of dislike to me, but I think he's obsessed, personally. I think he's obsessed. And he needs to let it go because it's affecting his league position, being so obsessed with me.
Okay, and what about Ben? Obviously, he's currently top of the league.
Yeah, but that's starting to come a bit short now, isn't it? He's on his way back down. And his squad, he's done so well considering his draft order. He's done fantastically well. He deserves a lot of respect. But the thinness of his squad, the quality of his squad is starting to take its toll now. I'm sure you'd probably agree if you were to offer an opinion. It's definitely taking its toll now.
Okay, and I mean, do you have anything else to say about the members of the league or the league itself?
Just like I said before, I'm willing to offer that olive branch out to the members of the group that we've had a few disagreements with recently, and we need to put it all behind us and move on.
Understandable, Chris, and obviously moving away from the members of the league, let's move on to the more important matter of today's event, is yourself, Chris.
Oh, I've been trying to avoid that one, Josh.
And let's start where it all began, to be fair. I mean, starting at the draft, your first pick.
Couldn't have gone much better.
Sergio Aguero.
That night in August.
That night in August when you won the Royal Rumble.
That night in August at the Royal Rumble. What was going through
your head there, Chris, when you finally...
Well, when we were originally selected with the worst rated wrestler in the Royal Rumble, my head went into my hands. I thought it was all over before it had even began. And to see him come out on top and beat all the other lads, it was a magical night in my fantasy football career. However, things haven't gone to plan since that night.
Chris, we'll start with obviously the draft order. I mean, first pick, Sergio Aguero. Talk us through him. Why Sergio?
Oh, he's stapled 20 goal a season, and I picked the season. Well, so I ended up with the season before, and I've drafted him away again. I instantly regretted it, but it's one of those things. And
well, we'll touch on that in a bit, Chris. Obviously, then somehow Zlatan Ibrahimovic was available for your second pick, and that was the same reason you picked Aguero, goal scorer.
Couldn't believe my luck. Well, the same with Ibra. He's got goals wherever he's gone, and yeah, there was no debate once he was there second round. I couldn't believe my luck, especially when players like Harry Kane had gone before him. What a joke!
Exactly, yeah, and obviously you firstly picked Sergio Aguero and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. A dream start.
After a better start in that draft.
Exactly, and then obviously moving on to your next couple of picks, were defensive picks. So you've got Thibaut Courtois and Toby Alderweireld. We won't question our selections, Chris, as we both know.
And as we all learnt last season, defence is just as important as attacking this league. Gets you mountains of points, and you've got to have a solid base to go from.
Well, the next two picks, obviously staying defensively, were Eric Barley and Luke Shaw. I mean, were you expecting a big season this year from Manchester United under the new manager?
Yeah, I think we all were. I think we were expecting a lot better than what's actually come about as far as it has now. I was expecting Jose Mourinho to be back to his best, keeping clean sheets, and I thought that was a nice, solid couple of picks to cement the back line, really.
Then your selections after that really were a bit questionable in some areas. I mean, Gylfi Sigurdsson and Seamus Coleman, I'll let you off for them, but then it gets a bit shaky. I mean, Vincent Janssen, an unproven striker,
Vincent Janssen was definitely worth a gamble. He was starting for Holland, coming out of a 25 goal season in the Eredivisie. So it was a risk, but I didn't see too much of a risk, to be honest. I thought he was going to go Kane and Janssen up top together, and I thought it would really work out. They'd complement each other well, but it's just not turned out that way.
Well, after Janssen, it was Mark Noble, Sadio Berahino, Danny Drinkwater, Memphis
But guess
Depay.
again, Mark Noble is a solid point scorer. He takes penalties for West Ham, but West Ham, you couldn't have foreseen their downfall this season.
Yeah, but you can understand that. Obviously, you saw West Ham would do well, but obviously, but then Berahino.
I was hoping for a rejuvenated Berahino back to his best.
He's always been second fiddle on the pure list to Rondon, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and you've definitely got the better out of those two, haven't you?
I don't know, but then Danny Drinkwater, were you expecting another good season from Leicester?
I wasn't expecting them to win the league, Josh, but I was expecting at least better than what they've got to now. And remember, Danny Drinkwater's had a lot of injuries this season as well.
Yeah.
He's suspended. It's those last 3 or 4 draft picks are honestly what's costing me now.
Well, the next pick after Drinkwater was Memphis Depay. I mean, obviously, we all know he's unproven. Were you expecting him to bounce back this season?
Well, you did, didn't you? Come up with Mourinho coming in and put his arm around him. Look at some of the players he's managed in his career. Look at John Terry, your Lampards. They all talk of how great the man is, and I really expected him to just turn him round, and it just hasn't happened.
Well, Andre Ayew, I mean, he was a good player for Swansea. He went to West Ham. Injured first game of the season, I think it was.
You could have foreseen that.
Exactly, so I can see why you picked him. Obviously, had a good season last, and obviously we didn't expect West Ham to be where they are now. But then Michael Keane, talk us through Michael Keane.
Well, the Michael Keane gamble, I'll talk you through that, and I remember it very clearly. There was talk of him moving to Leicester on deadline day, and he was linked with a 12 million move to Leicester, and I was convinced that if that was to go through, Leicester were to have a partly as good a season as last. Then they'd keep a few clean sheets, but it's just not worked out like that either.
Okay, then obviously your last pick was obviously you need to sign a keeper. You got Loris Karius from Liverpool. I mean, at the time we didn't know he was first choice keeper. Obviously, he was second to Mignolet.
Yeah, it was worth a gamble.
It was
but, and even so, he's not done so bad until the last few matches. He's looked very shaky.
Well, just to touch on it, obviously you selected those players, but players you could have had were Sadio Mane, Theo Walcott, Marco Arnautovic, James Milner, and Jose Fonte. I mean, the list goes on, but were you happy at the time with your selections?
I was, on paper, I had the best starting 11 in the league, and rightly so with my draft order. And I was very positive about the forthcoming season.
Okay, then obviously at the start of the season, you started with a loss, unfortunately, losing by 1 point to Conrad. I mean, that must have been devastating, losing by 1 point.
Devastating being put on the back foot, especially by someone who's not actually been in the league before. You don't know the goings on, you don't know the sort of points set up as well as everybody else. So it was a kick in the swingers.
Obviously, after the loss, you bounced back with an enormous win, to be fair, against Jim. I think it was 74-29. I mean, that must have felt great, getting a big win under your belt.
Is that a points record for the season still?
Unfortunately not. His second, Jim got 79 one week.
Right. So it's well up there, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So obviously that it was a very good night for myself. A few beers were consumed that evening on results night. It was very satisfying indeed.
Then obviously you got another win under your belt against Massey, but then your 2 wins were followed by 2 losses. So on the bounce to Adam and Ben, I mean, was that a bit annoying?
This is where the crucial thing starts, Josh. I started to go on a bit of a downward slide, and I started to panic slightly. There's a lot of pressure that comes with being number 1 draft pick. I don't think anybody appreciates that.
Well, would you say it was a very hit and miss start after the first game, 5 games? Sorry.
Very hit and miss start. What was it? 2 wins, 3 defeats.
It was, yeah. And you were sat 7th in the league at the time.
So, and I'm now what, 8th? Is it?
You're our 8th, yeah.
So even with Aguero and Ibrahimovic, I was still sat 7th in the league.
Obviously, talking about Aguero and Ibrahimovic, during these games you made questionable transfer with myself, I might add. It was a double.
Was that after 5 games in, yeah?
It was during the 5 games, because it was Ibrahimovic and Loris Karius.
After the 5th game, I think it was.
I can't remember the date, but obviously the deal was Ibrahimovic and Karius.
So I was obviously I started to panic. I got off to the best of starts. You sat 7th in the league, and you've got Aguero and Ibrahimovic at the top, and you think, where am I going wrong?
I mean, what made you get rid of Ibrahimovic for Firmino? I mean, were you a big fan of Firmino?
I saw how well Liverpool had started. I think I got a little bit excited at the way Liverpool had played away at Arsenal, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were sensational that day. They're absolutely sensational. The attacking prowess they showed. They looked like they were going to score with every shot, every time they touched the ball. So I think I got a bit excited, and you sort of capitalised on that.
I mean, would you say obviously at the time Ibrahimovic just scored 3 or 4 goals, give or take.
I know.
But Firmino, obviously, something there for him, wasn't it? Do you just think Liverpool would be better?
And if you think, cast your mind back, Josh, the game after again, I think Liverpool were away at Swansea. He actually scored,
You did, yeah.
so it wasn't such a bad trade.
Well, talk about after the trade though, you did lose by 10 points to Ben. Obviously, not the start you were looking for.
Not the start I was looking for at all.
But then after that, you beat Anthony by 5 points, then a victory over myself. So you got 2 wins on the bounce after the loss.
With my newly reformed squad.
It was, yeah, and you're up to 4th. I mean, 3 points off the top. I mean, a great position to be in, don't you think, after 7 games, sat 4th?
Yeah, so, I don't know, it wasn't the most horrendous set of trades when you look at it on paper, was it? Going from 7th to 4th.
But then after that, Chris, to be fair, this is when 2 losses on the bounce, and then it just went downhill for you. This is where you started making erratic changes to your side. I mean, can you talk us through those changes? Obviously, you gave me Firmino back for Ibrahimovic. Obviously, Barley and Chris Smalling were involved in the deal. But what made you agree to that deal? What made you want to get Ibrahimovic back?
I just needed a fresh outlook. My strikers weren't firing. My front line, and even to this day, my front line isn't as strong as I'd like it to be. From starting with Aguero and Ibrahimovic, I thought I felt a bit short-changed.
Yeah.
You can understand.
I can understand that, sorry, Chris. But then as soon as you got Ibrahimovic back, you were straight out the door again.
I needed to use him as a bit of leverage to strengthen in other areas as well as my strike force.
You got Ibrahimovic.
So I had Vardy and Martial, didn't I, after all those trades?
No, you didn't know that, but obviously the first trade with Ibrahimovic and Janssen for John Stones and Martial, I mean, Martial hasn't started all season and John Stones looked shaky at City, so what made you go for that deal?
Well, I was hoping that John Stones was going to come good. I thought City were playing really well at the time, even though they did concede the odd goal. Yeah. They were playing really well. I think it was coming off the back of the performance at Old Trafford, which was sensational. I thought that City were, at that point, they were definitely the strongest side in the Premier League before Chelsea's resurgence.
Well, again, obviously, you just got rid of Ibrahimovic, but then you got him straight back again because you shipped out Aguero and Coleman for Ibrahimovic and Pogba. Yeah. I mean, at the time, did you think that was a good deal?
I thought that Man United were about to turn the corner. I thought that Pogba, obviously being the world record signing on paper, he should be the best player in the Premier League. However, he's not there. He scored that great goal at Swansea. He's just not took it to the next level yet. He's not grabbing games by the scruff of the neck and getting the points that he should be getting.
Well, it's difficult when you said you needed a goal scorer, but then you just shipped him out straight away for a triple deal with Anthony, really. It was Ibrahimovic, Clichy and Courtois leaving for Eriksen, Lloris and Vardy. I mean...
Yeah, but Jamie Vardy was second top goal scorer in the Premier League last season, so you can't turn around to me and say it was a terrible deal.
Well, I would. I think everyone else would. I mean, Ibrahimovic for Vardy is a bizarre deal. I mean...
26 Premier League goals last season.
Last season, though. He's not done anything this season. I mean, Gareth McCauley has scored more than him.
He hasn't done that this season, but you can't foresee that was going to be the case.
But I think everyone would agree that you needed to keep one of the two, Ibrahimovic or Aguero, and you got rid of both of them.
It's a long season. I may well end up with one of them yet again.
Well, can you really see Jim or Anthony parting ways with them?
I think the more that Anthony struggles, the more desperate he's going to get. And Jim, as soon as he has a few losses, his head will just go. His head will go.
Well, I mean, so you think you got the better deal, essentially, out of that triple deal?
I think that in the next 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to be quite glaringly obvious that I made the right decision.
Okay, but after these results, obviously these changes, sorry, you started to sink a bit down the table. I mean, you managed to draw the first week with Massey with your newly built side.
I had a poor start.
Then a loss to Anthony, then a victory against Ben. But I think I was a bit lucky because obviously he was still top and it was just a bad week for him.
I wouldn't say it was lucky. I'd say that was the week there where things have started to change. The team was starting to gel. I'd got them on a training pitch. they were just starting to look a lot better.
But then after that win, obviously you suffered another defeat this time to the hands of Conrad again. I mean,
Yeah, it's unlucky. We had a really poor week. Everybody was on 4 out of 10s. There was nobody was up there on a 7 and 8. And if I'd have had just 2 or 3 players performing at half the level, it'd have been more than good enough to beat someone of a side that's managed by Conrad.
okay. But then in the fifth week, you nearly built side, you grabbed another win. This time against other Ben, with a 30-point gap between the scorelines. So that must have been a great result. And what you've been wanting from your new side.
Very satisfying. Was that the last game that's
It
been
was
played?
this last game played, yeah.
Yeah, and we're coming off the back of there, and you're really starting to see the result of a lot of hard work. Um, the organisation is a lot more structured. There's nothing, no more erratic decisions being made. We've got a really strong structure in place, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season.
Well, I agree, Chris. Currently you're sat 8th, but a win could take you to highest third place.
Exactly.
If results go your way, that is.
And my midfield, there's not a better midfield in this division. Let me tell you that.
That could cause a debate with some other members of the league. But
I would love that to be discussed in the league show because statistically they're the best midfielders in the league.
so obviously you sat 8th now. Obviously a win could take you as high as third. Do you see yourself realistically back in the title charge?
I'm back in the title race, definitely, and even the bottom member of the division could get themselves back in it with a few shrewd trades. If Massey's living out the back of a car and he's ninth, then anything can happen.
But obviously, or is a more realistic ambition for yourself to finish probably perhaps with the League Cup?
No, I want to win the league,
You want to win the league?
and I think I will.
Okay, I mean that about wraps up, Chris. I mean, do you want anything else to say to the listeners?
No, it's been a pleasure, and you've been a great host.
Well, thank you, Chris.
And good luck for the rest of the season.
And yourself, Chris. And obviously that about wraps it up. This has been Joshua Powers' live fantasy stories with Chris Benson. Good night.
Good night, guys.